Mr. Lang, your meeting.
Okay, and I don't see Director Holt yet. Any information on her being present or not present?
She was supposed to call in.
Okay.
We've given her all the information. We have not yet heard from her.
Okay. Well, I'm going to proceed and call this regular meeting of the Conejo Recreation and Park District with special teleconferencing capabilities for March 19th. And I'm going to ask Cheryl, our administrator, and finance and planning, who's tonight is her last night. Cheryl, if you'd be so kind, would you lead us in the pledge? Everybody please stand. Can we see a flag there?
Yes.
I figure it's over that way somewhere.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge
allegiance
To the
flag of the
United States of America,
and to the
and
republic
which stands
one
one
nation,
nation under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
with
liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Cheryl. And before I ask the secretary to do the roll call, when you respond, just mention where you're at, and I will do it and it'll give you a feel, but mention your venue. Roll call, please.
Director Lang,
George Lang at my residence.
Director Nichols,
Doug Nichols here.
Director Holt, Director Huffer,
I'm president of my residence.
Director Cuthbert.
Wait, now it says.
Here.
Okay. We have two board members, Nichols and Cusworth at the district offices, Huffer and Lang at their personal residence, and Director Holt yet to show up.
Looks like she's connecting, George.
Okay. Director Holt? We see her identifier, but they don't see or hear her.
Okay.
I'm going to proceed. Item number 3, special presentations, and those have been postponed, so there's no presentations. And Tom, can you lean a little more forward? Mr. Hare? There you go.
Much better.
Okay.
Oh. Or move this way a little bit. I'll move over so we can keep our 6 feet.
Excellent, excellent. Good job, good job. Okay. Item number 4, items from the public. Do we have any public that would like to address the board at this time? I hear nothing, I see nothing, so I'm assuming the public is not going to address the board at this time.
Chair Lang, let me just ask our moderator, who's trying to see if he can get Director Holt on, if there's anybody in the queue who would like to make a public comment.
If they have a comment, put it in the chat.
And if they do have a comment, this would be the time to enter it into the chat box, and our moderator will take that. And I think we can proceed with the meeting while this comment, if any, is coming in. So we could proceed knowing that there may be a public comment pending.
Okay. And for information, board members, all votes will be roll call votes. That means every item that we vote on, our secretary, Elaine, will call the roll, and then you indicate your position on that particular item. Okay. We're moving on to item 5, approval of the agenda. I'd entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move approval.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Nichols and Cusworth. Any changes, additions, modifications of the agenda? If not, roll call vote, please, Aline.
Director Lang?
Yes?
Director Nichols?
Yes.
Director Holt? Director Hupper?
Yes.
Director Cuthbert? Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 6, consent calendar. Item 6A, approval of the minutes of March 5th. And B, approval of the warrants. Accounts payable check register of $295,131.22 and payroll of $434,000. I'd entertain a motion at this time.
I'll move approval of consent items A and B.
With a second?
Second, Doug Nichols.
Thank you, Director Nichols and Director Huffer. Any other comments, or are there any comments on the consent calendar, A and B? If not,
I would
roll
like
call-
to,
Pardon?
I would like to note that I was not at the last meeting to approve the minutes.
Okay, but if you didn't see any issues, you could still approve, but that's your choice. Roll call vote, please.
Director Lang?
Yes?
Director Nichols?
Yes.
Director Holt? Director Hupper?
Yes.
Director Cuthbert? Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes. We're moving on to item 7, deferred matters. We have no deferred matters. Item 8, items for discussion. We have no items for discussion. Moving on to item 9, new items. 9A, preliminary budget fiscal year 2020 and 21. Staff, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is our annual adoption of the preliminary budget. It allows us to continue into the new fiscal year if we have not adopted a final budget by June 30, which you may recall happened last year. The numbers are the same numbers you saw last July when you adopted the 2-year budget, and this starts the public hearing process. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Lawanda. This is our preliminary budget. And as mentioned, is the same as last year's to start with before our staff does their magic. Okay, I'm going to open, no, this isn't the hearing. So any other comments or questions by board members?
Mr. Lang, Doug Nichols here, had a question.
Go ahead, Director Nichols.
Ms. Lawanda, just a question. When there is a line item in these various budget summaries that says fund balance, can you explain what that is a balance from? Is it the previous year or current balance, or please just explain what that's for?
The line item uses the savings account, which would be the fund, the dollars that have accumulated in that fund over the life of the fund.
Okay, so it's anything that's residual from
Correct.
prior to this current year. Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you, Director Lang.
Okay. Any other questions? Director Cusworth.
So I'm looking at page 45 and page 46. And my question is that these items for estimated costs, are these things you are buying every year? Or for this next year in particularly? Or are these items that you are saving for to buy over an accumulated time? For instance, the Encore chairs. Is this something you buy every year? Is this something that you are just saving up to buy for this year? Or any of these other items? Some of them seem like it wouldn't be items you would be purchasing every year. So I'm just wondering, is this something that you save for, to buy for in the future, or are these actual items that you know you need to purchase this year?
We need to purchase them this year. We do a calendar, kind of like Tom's calendar with a CIP out 10 years and stuff. So we evaluate what we have and when things are going to be expiring their use. The Encore chairs are chairs that are going into the Hillcrest Center for the Arts, and we will have a 2-year process of replacing chairs and putting them through. So many of these items will be bought this year, but they might have a lifespan of 10 years, so you won't see it again for 10 years.
And on the following page, page 46, for your technology, it's the same question. So I'm assuming then, from what you told me, these are items that you are buying this year. And just out of curiosity, how often are you replacing your PCs and your tablets?
So let me back up a minute. The fund, each year we transfer money from the general fund into the equipment replacement fund to have money for future replacement of items. The items you have here are the items we propose to purchase in the fiscal year using the accumulated money.
Okay.
5 years now is what we're doing with PCs?
Roughly 5, yeah, there's a few exceptions, 4, some 7, but 5 is the average.
So you still would have other money you would be putting in yearly so that you would have the money for these items in another 5 years?
Correct.
So it would be the same process, because I understood with our fleet description that I know that that's what Mr. Hare is doing. So it's somewhat the same process that you're doing for these items.
Correct. So we liked so much what Tom did, we had Mark do it, and then when Rochelle got here, she wanted to do it too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Cusworth and Ms. Lawanda. Any other questions by board members on the preliminary budget? If not, I'd entertain a motion, and as you know, notice this involves a resolution. Motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Director Cusworth.
I recommend that we approve resolution number 03-11920-A, adopting a preliminary budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021, and authorize the general manager to publish the notice of adoption, and that it be read in title only and all future readings be waived.
Wow, very good, Director Cusworth. Let's hear a second. Come on, a roaring second.
I'll second.
Doug Nichols, your
Okay,
second.
thank you, Director Huffer. We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented. Secretary, please read it in title only.
Resolution number 03-1920-A, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Conejo Recreation and Park District adopting the fiscal year 2020-2021 preliminary budget for the district.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Director Lang,
Yes.
Director Nichols,
Yes.
Director Holt, Director Huffer,
Yes.
Director Cusworth,
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is approved. Moving on to item 9B, updates to select job specifications. Staff, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. As you know, periodically we review our job specifications to make sure they still reflect the work that the employees are doing. And when we went to Bill behind me for the management group of the administrative position, we noticed that that job specification sorely lacked all the work that CRPD does on behalf of MRCA. So we've updated that job spec primarily to reflect the MRCA duties and also to reduce it by the IT duties that have moved to our IT unit, i.e. Mark. Back in the day, we didn't have a Mark, which was really interesting. So that's the first change. The second is not only did we get a Mark got staff. So we were recommending that the IT analyst position, which is the position Mark is in, get renamed or retitled to IT supervisor. Same thing with the marketing supervisor. It's called registration publicity supervisor now, and we'd like to update that to marketing and communication supervisor, which more clearly reflects the duties that all of these people are doing. And there are no changes to the compensation package as a result of these changes. So with that, I'm available for questions.
Okay, are there any questions of Ms. Luanda? Director Nichols?
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Thank you, Ms. Luanda, for the explanation. I noted in the Administrator Management Services, with the red line strikeout version, I can see where it's predominantly just clarification and finessing, I should say, of what that job is actually taking, which I understand is a typical process where things evolve over time as the roles and needs change. However, I did notice under information technology, the analyst moving to a supervisor does include a change where it's supervising staff, which you mentioned is, I guess, currently happening, but is not actually documented that way. But I also noticed in the staff report, it says no changes to the salary. There's been no adjustments. With our current, I guess, array of positions, where there is a supervisorial component, I would imagine that's a little bit of an elevated position where now you have staff that are reporting to that position. In this case where you're now including that supervision, but there is no salary adjustment, are they maintaining the exact same level of their responsibilities and I should say pecking order, for lack of a better term, within the organization? Or is this an actual change in that where there's a significant change in responsibilities?
I'm kind of stuck on the pecking order. I'm trying to come up with a joke. So the balance is, because of the nature of the job, having specific knowledge, it was already classified higher than an analyst position would be otherwise in the organization. And with getting employees, he offloads some of his duties to the employees who are now doing those, freeing up time to do other things. And the balance of those led us to conclude that it should stay where it is for now. And we anticipate, as part of this COVID-19, that we might all be doing technology work at a greater level on a forever go-forward basis. Once everybody figures out they don't have to drive anywhere, that we might reevaluate that as technology continues to get enhanced in the culture.
Okay, thank you. I think what you said from the beginning kind of caught my attention, where this particular position, there's a greater expectation of technical knowledge, and so that the salary had been placed at a certain point in recognition of that.
Correct.
And I understand there are certain positions, whether there's a certificate required or some type of special skill set, that there might be some percentage increase merely because of that fact. So that was already built into this position. You're just now kind of capturing the supervisorial responsibilities along with that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome, Director Nichols and Ms. Luanda. Any other comments or questions? Is Mr. Siggety still there?
Yes,
Or-
George?
Yes, he's
Okay.
here.
My question in general, how many positions, thank you, how many positions will be in Mr. Siggety's operation? We currently have 3, if I recall correctly.
Yes, that's correct. We currently have 3, including myself.
Okay. And so you're not adding any positions. You're just more redefining and assigning more specific responsibilities with the new requirements.
Yeah, what's happening is Mark is standing right in view of the camera, if you were to talk to. So right at the moment, we have Mark who's full-time, we have Johnny who's full-time, and we have a contractor. And we imagine, and we're looking in a future budget to get an additional full-time person, perhaps at the expense of the contract position, but we haven't fleshed all that out yet. And we'll be looking at that sooner rather than later if in fact all of this technology everybody's using now stays in play on a go-forward basis.
Very good. And thank you for clarifying the contract position. And based on the times that I've had need for technical assistance with my CRPD accounts, I've been serviced very well. So I'm not that familiar with the new contract person, but with John and yourself, Mark, really appreciate what you guys do and what you understand to make our IT operations so good, including tonight's teleconference meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other additional questions in reference to these new positions, update and job, selected job opportunity specifications? No further questions. I'd entertain a motion.
I'm wondering if we're going to have a time to talk about the other ones that wouldn't be relating to Mrs. Lawanda or Ms. Lawanda, such as the marketing and communications supervisor.
Yeah, please go ahead if you have questions.
Oh, okay. So I think this would be directed more to Mrs. Callis. Now, there's no changes really here except for the name, but my question is on the supervisory responsibilities. When I looked at the flow chart of the people here, I didn't see anybody that Mrs. Harrison, I'm assuming that's our person, Kathy Harrison, was supervising right now, yet this is included in her responsibilities. So is this something we are anticipating in the near future? I know that she needs help, but she's already, that is a responsibility of her. So is there people she is supervising, or is this something that we are anticipating and it was just put in as part of her job?
She currently supervises a part-time staff, and that is someone who works currently now. They just got bumped up to between 30 and 35 hours a week as part-time regular staff. And we see in the future that that position could potentially have an additional part-time staff also. But she currently does have a part-time staff and has for several years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, directors, this might be a good time to request, when you're talking on some specifics in the staff report, if you'd refer to the page number in reference to your questions or comments to facilitate the rest of the directors getting on this quote unquote same page quicker. So with that, and any further questions?
Director Lang, I'd like to move approval of staff recommendation to approve the updated job specifications for administrator management services, information technology analyst, and the registration publicity supervisor positions.
Thank you, Director Huffer. May I have a second?
I'd like to second that.
Thank you, Director Cusworth. Any other questions or comments? If not, roll call vote, please.
Director Lang?
Yes?
Director Nichols?
Yes.
Director Holt? Director Huffer?
Yes.
Director Cusworth?
Yes.
Thank you. We're moving on to item 9C, updates to maintenance worker job specifications and additional positions. Staff, please.
Excuse me, Director Lang, could I just request that when staff are speaking, that if they perhaps get a little bit closer to the microphones?
Of course.
Thank you.
Okay, so to assist in the volume of your voices, please move a little closer to the mics. Thank you. Staff, please, on item C.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. It helps if you turn your mic on.
Hey,
So we're asking you to do.
novel resolution or solution.
Okay.
Okay, staff.
We are asking you to do three things in this item. One is update the job specs for the maintenance worker series of positions, add a maintenance worker 2 position, this would be an additional full-time position, and appropriate $40,000 in the equipment replacement fund for a truck for this additional position. As you recall, we, particularly Tom, have been negotiating with the city regarding the responsibilities of the teen center and the senior center. And in that agreement, we agreed to take over the maintenance responsibilities of those 2 buildings. And when we got a hold of the buildings, it became clear that we might need some additional resources to do that effectively. Along with that, we're finding out there's more needs at the pool. The pool's aging a bit and it gets used a lot. And so the combination of those 3 items has led us to recommend that we get an additional maintenance worker position in order to take over those duties. So the changes in the job specs are adding pool items to the different job specs, the 3 job specs. And the person, whoever we hire would need a truck, so we'd be buying a truck and some tools to go along with that. Ran out of things to say, so with that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lawanda. Do we have any questions, staff?
I have
Director
a
Cusworth,
question.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what goes into becoming a certified pool operator? Because it seems like that falls under all of those job descriptions.
The maintenance guys have to go, or gals, have to go and they take some classes and then some instruction to, it's usually, I think, a few-day course that they have to take and pass the test. Very similar to some of the other duties that they have, whether it was, becoming a certified playground safety inspector. It's just like another certificate that they have so they know the inner workings of a pool operation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
I have a
Director.
question.
Director Cusworth.
My question is, are all of these people that we're talking about already certified as pool technicians, or is this something new that we're having to now do?
From our maintenance supervisor is certified, our crew leader is certified, and I think of the 5 maintenance worker 2s that we already have on staff, I think 4 out of the 5 are already certified.
I had another question, that on page 62, we were talking about the maintenance supervisor, which I'm assuming is Joe Tomero.
Tornero, yes.
And then if we go to page 68, it talks again about a maintenance supervisor. Is this one on page 58 also Joe Tomero, or is there another person? Do we have 2 maintenance supervisors?
I think that job spec is just in there twice, inadvertently.
Okay. Because it seemed like they were saying different things, so they just weren't put in the right order then. Is that it?
Looks that way. That looks like, I'm actually looking at it really quickly, page 62 should just be deleted because it doesn't have the course. 63 should be the corresponding back page of page 62, and it's not. So 62 just, that's just an extra piece of paper in there.
Oh, okay, so we still have just one maintenance
Correct.
supervisor. And so it's really page 68 that's showing.
Correct, yeah, because 68 and 69 are the,
68, okay, I
68
see
and
that
69
now.
are the
Page
two.
68 and 62 are the same, and then it was 68 that was a little bit different.
Yes,
And is Joe already a certified playground safety inspector?
yes,
So we're just adding in the wording, they already have the,
correct.
the facility. Okay, and so, I think that was all. My one question is, do we already have somebody in mind that you're going to hire, or is that going to be for the new position? Or is that something that's going to be open?
No, that would be open for open recruitment.
Okay. And that's the end of my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Cuthbert and staff. My question is in reference to the increased additional pool maintenance requirements. Can there be some more specifics as to what are the issues right now?
In various, I mean, just think of just if the facility is 10 years old, and if it's, whether it's a pool equipment, mechanical equipment like the pumps and the filters, or the pool deck, or the pool tiles, the actual building that's there, the small building, it's showing its age, and it requires a higher level of expertise. In that when we do, it should have more preventative maintenance that the current pool staff can provide. So by providing regular maintenance on equipment that a skilled technician would have, it would provide, so we would have to shut down the pool and replace a filter or replace the chemicals. So that way we could do a better job on the preventative maintenance and therefore have more long-term viability of the pool.
Okay. Remind me, about a year ago or thereabouts, we put in a new water filtering system. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, how is that operating, and does that require some additional knowledge for one of our staff?
Nothing new, like the current pool staff that's there now. Let's back up a little bit. Our maintenance staff does help out quite a bit at the location right now, and we do work together with them. But at the beginning, when we first started with the pool 10 years ago, it was just, hey, call us if you need us. Now, call us if you need us is becoming more of a daily thing than a every now and then thing. So that's why and because the level of skill and technical expertise needed to maintain the pool equipment is beyond the aquatic staff's capabilities. So we're spending a lot more time there in order to try to assist them, but then it's taking away from the other duties and responsibilities they have at the other centers.
Okay. Thank you. Totally understand that. And the funds for those additional 10-year maintenance requirements are going to be in the budget or in place, et cetera?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, staff. Any additional comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. Lang.
Yes, Director Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hare, just so curious here, you mentioned that there are about 5 of the current 5 maintenance workers 2s, and that you have 1 maintenance supervisor. How many maintenance crew leaders do we currently have? 1. And then how many maintenance worker 1s do we have?
0.
0. Okay. And since that is not part of this packet, is the certified pool operator also a requirement of the 1 level, or just does that come in place for the 2 level?
Actually, I have that. I mean, sure, you might do a history. I have, since I've been here, we've never had a maintenance worker 2. I don't even know the one even exist anymore. I think does it even exist anymore?
Shelley's shaking her head no.
Yeah, I think that and I couldn't give you that because it predates all of us, but I think, a couple decades ago, they took that, I'm guessing it was a maintenance worker position, and then for some reason they said, let's call it a maintenance worker 2, and there's never been an entry level or a maintenance worker 1 position.
Okay, with that then, if by default our maintenance worker 2 is our entry level position, is the expectation then that new applicants have to have a certified pool operator?
Yes. Or usually, at worst, we might say the ability to get it, or someone. I mean, that takes a lot of to play when we're doing the interviews. If someone says, "Oh, I'm scheduled to take the class next month or something like that. Yes, it's something it's highly desirable for the person to have that or to be getting it in a short fashion.
Okay, because I obviously this is not a job bulletin flyer advertisement for a position, but if that would be the case, this appears to be a requirement, and I don't see anything here to defer that into the future if you're getting a new applicant that doesn't have that. How do they get that?
Well, how it was, I apologize, say that again?
Yeah, if you have a new applicant who maybe is experienced in all categories except for swimming pool maintenance and have no knowledge of maintenance pool, they get there wanting to apply for the job, and that's the entry level, how do they get that operator certificate to even apply for the job?
Well, they could get it on their own. I mean, it's not a hard, I would say it's not easy, but it's something someone can get on their own. They don't need an organization or us to pay for it. It's not something we have in the past. We don't just, we will look at applicants, and like I said, that's something that would be a huge check mark. But if someone, and I'm not saying it's specialized building maintenance. Really, that's what it is. It's not. That's why a skilled maintenance worker too, which all our guys are. None of our guys were pool operators, certified pool operators before, and they could, for lack of a better word, walk into the aquatic facility and go, I think I know what's going on because I work on this on other buildings. And now when they take become a certified pool operator, it just gives them, instead of doing a 3-hour diagnosis, it might take them 20 minutes because they know exactly how the little ins and outs of being a pool operator. So it's really not terribly different from what they already know, but just it gives them a little specialty. So when we're doing the hiring process, we're going to be working with the aquatic staff and to see if they know people out there that already could qualify for this position, and also have the aquatic staff in on the interview process and the hiring process. But again, we haven't done the job flyer yet, but it'd be my thing that it'd be something we would put down, and we always put at the end in general, or the equivalent education and experience. And so then because that way, because not everyone's always a perfect match. And
Yes, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Having been through the recruitment process many times, especially for entry-level positions, you always find somebody that has 7 out of the 8 requirements or 6 out of the 7 requirements, and I would hate to see that just for lack of a certified pool operator certificate, they can't apply for the job.
No,
So they just need to make some allowances, whether within 6 months or something, because I would hate to see that would bump somebody off who otherwise you'd love to have on your
Oh,
staff.
yeah, we do. Yeah, we definitely do.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome, Director Nichols. Any additional comments or questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion, and we can have the motion combined, items 1 through 3, rather than individually. Motion, please.
Yes, I'll go ahead and make a motion, Mr. Chair. Recommend that we update the job specifications for the maintenance worker series of positions, add maintenance worker 2 position in range 41, and appropriate $40,000 in the equipment reserve fund for a truck and accessories, items 1, 2, and 3.
Thank you. Second, please.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Director Cusworth. Roll call vote, please.
Director Lang,
Yes.
Director Nichols,
Yes.
Director Holt, Director Huffer,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Director
Taking-
Huffer,
Yes,
and Director Cusworth.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion will pass. We're moving on to item 9D, budget adjustments, FY 2019-2020. Staff, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Before I do this item, I'd like to point out what a great job your general manager does working his staff to the bone right to the bitter end. Although it's often true that I don't talk through very many meetings and then I talk a lot, I think this one might break a record.
I was thinking the same thing, Ms. Luanda. Exactly the same thing.
Tom thinks it's because I procrastinated everything and it just all ended up on my last day. But I prefer to think it's Jim getting a maximum effort from his staff.
Good job, everybody.
This item I probably would not have brought to the board except for the fact that this is my last meeting and it's easier for me to explain what's happening than to drop it in Melissa's lap. This is the same type of action we take once or twice a year to update the budget for things that have happened that we didn't expect when the budget was adopted. First one is Mark went out and got us some new copiers, and a couple of the copiers in our fleet were on a different lease term than the rest of the copiers, and the new copy company wanted them all to be on the same term, so they agreed to buy out the two that were not at the end of their lease yet. So we're going to recognize the revenue that the new copier company is giving us, and we're going to expense it buying out the leases on the two copiers that were not yet fully through their lease. Eye-catching item in here, even though this is a fairly ministerial item, is a $5 million item. When we moved money, with all the shenanigans we did, moving money to the OPEB, to the pension stabilization, and to the retirement enhancement funds, there were about 7 different funds involved in making all that happen. And we got that all settled out now, but when we moved the more recent money to the pension stabilization fund, we moved it out of the general fund rather than the actual pension stabilization fund. So from an accounting perspective, we now need to move the money from the pension stabilization fund to repay the general fund for the money that it sent to PARS. Now, for those of us that speak English, I have a bank account with Bank of America and I have a bank account with Chase. I have money for my mortgage in Bank of America, but this month, for some reason, I paid it out of my Chase account. I now need to move the money from Bank of America to Chase. That's the mechanics of what we're doing. The one thing I love about accounting is it's double entry, so everything always balances. Well, in this case, the general fund is a budgeted fund, and the pension stabilization fund is not a budgeted fund, primarily because there's no activity in there usually, and therefore we have what appears to be a really funky one-sided adjustment. So that's the big scary dollar one that isn't terribly meaningful. And then there's some minor capital project adjustments in both the capital project fund and the district-wide assessments that are fairly typical. Something happens when we start a project and we need a little more money. Tom has assured me that there is extra resources there's extra resources in another project that will fund some of these overages, but I didn't want to take it away from that project until it was completely finished, lest we end up going around and around and around. We took money from Kimber, but it wasn't done, so then it needed $3,000 more. And because it all winds up in the fund balance at the end, we decided to just make these adjustments. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Luanda. And Ms. Smith, Melissa, I hope you're following some of this because some of these things become challenges.
Oh, yes, I'm following. I'm in a
Very-
bunker. I don't need to teacher.
Very good. Okay, board members, any questions of staff, Ms. Luanda or Ms. Smith on this?
Hello, George.
Yes.
None of these are huge figures, but I'm just curious as to how a small project like the trash enclosures can cost $10,000 more.
Staff?
Well, thanks for asking, Director Huffer.
I didn't set them
Certainly.
up. Set them up.
Would you set them up?
I did not set them up.
Oh, I was going to say you set them up. If Jim talked to my office and said, how could that happen? Well, when we originally were planning it, we were under the impression from City Public Works, there was like a template. You know, this, I don't know if you ever have seen their templates, or they have like roadway templates, different things for the design. They had a template on what the design was supposed to be, and we're like, good, no problem, we got a estimate on how much it was gonna cost, and then they said, yes, and now you have to have an engineer, and a structural engineer draw it for us so we could stamp it, so he could stamp it and submit it to us for a review. And so that was about an extra $8,000 that we were not anticipating.
Okay. And then just one
That
other,
was,
quick question. My recollection is that on the healing garden, that the city was reimbursing us up to $250,000, so that massive additional $5,000 is out of our pocket.
right.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Huffer and Mr. Hare. Any other board questions on this particular item? Okay, if not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of staff recommendation to approve the proposed fiscal year 2019-20 budget adjustments.
Thank you, Director Huffer. A second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Cusworth. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Director Lang,
Yes.
Director Nichols,
Yes.
Director Holt,
Dang it.
Director Hopper,
Yes.
Director Cuthbert.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That motion passes. We're moving on to item 9E, resolution number 031920-B, declaring and joining with the City of Thousand Oaks proclamation of the existence of a local emergency and rendering certain emergency orders related to this COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. Staff, please.
Thank you, Chair Lang, members of the board. This is a very quickly evolving and very serious situation. Looking back, our head has been spinning, but it's only as recently as about the last week or so, it's about 8 days, it's been declared a pandemic. The county declared a state of emergency, the federal government declared a state of emergency, the city's declared a state of emergency, and now we're asking this board to declare a state of emergency. Interesting note about special districts and our even need to do this. It's not totally clear that this is a legal requirement, though we do it as a belt and suspenders. The City of Thousand Oaks is really the local city entity that can declare the emergency, and normally if they set up an incident command structure, we as a special district would kind of report and be available to the city through their incident command structure. This is unlike anything we've ever really locally planned for when we think about our emergencies, fires, floods, earthquakes, and usually all of our planning involves how do we help people by sheltering them or lending equipment and resources or kind of showing up and being there when needed. And we're really struggling because what's needed by not only the district but everybody in the whole entire community is to actually be apart from one another, which is why we're set up the way we are with the meeting. The board members that aren't here are sheltering in place for very good public health practices. Given the public health advisories, we are practicing our 6-foot separation among staff here in the boardroom. The Brown Act actually was under the state of emergency changed to allow for this type of a meeting to occur. Since the report in front of you was written, the city has updated their local emergency. I don't think that we necessarily need to update ours. It's just indicating that this board understands and appreciates that there is a local emergency. We are going to pay very close attention to the public health officials and their orders at basically 3 different levels of government, which haven't been totally consistent, and what I could characterize as is kind of ratcheting tighter and tighter. And just as we came into our meeting tonight, I understand that the County of Los Angeles has issued and promulgated some further tightening and restrictions limiting the public's ability to go out and travel, and I would expect that may in fact occur in Ventura at some point as well. So the resolution in front of you is for you to consider and pass. Essentially, probably the main and primary authority that would happen because of this is it would allow for me, ultimately as the general manager, to dispense with certain purchasing policies should we need to go out and acquire supplies or equipment in some extraordinary fashion. We do intend to continue to try to have our board meetings as even it ratchets down further. So this type of meeting we would expect to do 2 weeks from now. There are agencies that are not allowing public to participate in person whatsoever. We don't know if clearer guidelines will come down regarding that. But as it's allowed, we will still continue to meet. I do want to let the board know, and hopefully we have some folks from the public on the line, and let them know what the different departments have been doing over the past week and where we stand. And I think I'll start with Mr. Hare and the Parks and Planning folks and what they have done and what they're going to continue to do.
Great, okay. Yeah, thanks, Jim. Got all our staff is available and ready and have been working in for lack of a word, doing business as usual, but with an emphasis on health and safety and protecting the parks and the facilities that we have out there. We had closed the centers last week. We closed the restroom. We left the park restrooms open on Saturday, and then we closed them on Monday due to some issues we had with theft and vandalism and scarcity of supplies. We have recently put out 22 porta potties at 10 different locations throughout the district, which will be serviced by the company who we got them from. We have been communicating as much as we can about the ongoing situation with employees as well as with our patrons, with signage throughout our facilities, recommending things to recommend area, whether telling them the bathroom's closed or if the centers are closed but the parks are open, and also providing recommendations to adhere to the public health guidelines as far as social distancing and warnings about being on playgrounds or using drinking fountains or picnic tables or touching railings, like sort of high-touch areas that are in our parks. We have seen, in a combination with the public health emergency and the rain that we had last week, when it became nice and clear about Tuesday afternoon, or it might have been Wednesday morning, I can't remember, a huge spike in usage. Since the schools are closed and the folks are shut in with their families for a few days straight, it's been quite a few people out in the parks and on the trails, and so we're just trying to remind them that this is great. I'm glad they're able to enjoy the parks and open space that we have out there, but to remember to use the guidelines provided by the public health about social distancing.
Thanks, Mr. Hare. And I don't know if Ms. Callis, you want to go next?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So there's quite a bit going on out in the Recreation Division. So we had, upon this happening, canceled all of our remaining 2 weeks of winter programming, which resulted in some refunds of about or 1,337 participants across 228 classes, totaling about $36,000 in refunds processed to date so far. We are currently looking at the spring session. We're in discussions on what we're going to be doing, and there'll be more information going out tomorrow. We've had to cancel special events such as Bark in the Park, Flashlight Egg Hunt. I believe Gratitude Circle is canceled. The pie auction, the prom again, Persian New Year, all the folks that go out there, that is going to be closed. For fields and picnic areas and facility rentals, we have closed all of those and canceled everything up to May 3rd based off of school district closures and till May 1st. They reopen or are hoping to reopen on May 4th, so we're closing until May 3rd. This has impacted over 70 user groups. The district processed over $23,000 in refunds for paid rental fees, and we're seeing some revenue losses and stuff to that effect. Full-time staff are working really hard. They're being very patient, and they're communicating well. They are dealing with a lot of change on very short notice, and a lot of times just not even knowing what's kind of completely going on because things change so fast. Marketing has been putting out information. We have a web page specifically for this details on these situations. We have done Twitters and Instagrams and Facebooks as things change, and we have information to give to the public. As far as hours, it's very challenging. Of course, we'd like to keep all of our staff employed, but as there is no work to be done, we've had to make adjustments to work schedules. Staff are currently giving work schedules on a weekly basis for the following week. A regular work week, our part-time staff will work about 2,300 hours. This week, they're scheduled for about 1,000 hours, and next week, we're at about the same thing. So we fortunately do have work to be done. There's lots of things that we can have our staff do. We still have senior nutrition going. We have safe passage going with the kids for lunch. So there's definitely things at the site to be doing, giving people refunds, answering phone calls, cleaning and organizing. But we foresee in the near future that those hours will deplete even more, and we will have to make some additional tough decisions in the future. And I think that's about it for now.
Thank you. And
Mr. General Manager, Mr. Friedel, I have
yes.
I have a question of Ms. Callis in her report. I think I heard in the registration classes there was over 1,000 so many participants that you had to refund. And again, what was the total dollar amount that was refunded?
About $36,000 right now.
36,000. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. General Manager.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. My end of the world, we've been primarily trying to figure out what leave balances people can use if they need to be off for any rainbow of assorted reasons. We've been on webinars with Lever Cassidy, our legal firm. We've been on telephone calls with them, and the we I'm referring to is Shelley sitting over there and give more guidance if we want to get into the weeds. In addition to that, we have to look at how this is affecting our partner agencies. So the school districts are closed, the city's revenues, the sales taxes will be impacted, as will the transit occupancy taxes. So we need to be aware that their support might not be all we had hoped before all this started. The board, in its wisdom, put away $6.4 million in an operating reserve. So as an organization, we don't need to panic. But on the other hand, $6.4 million only goes so far before zero. We do also have a vested leave reserve of about $1.6 million. We ran reports to determine what all the leave is currently on the books, vested and unvested is, and it's $2.8 million. The difference between those is primarily sick leave. And so we're trying to determine when people need to be off. Can we direct them toward vacation? Can we direct them towards sick? What's the best direction to keep people paid? We also met with the union. The union was interested in two things primarily. One was, what are we doing to keep our employees safe? And we explained to them we've got fines on the buildings, we've closed facilities, we're doing our distancing, our social distancing, so we're got that piece of it figured out. They also wanted to know how we were going to pay people and weren't we going to keep paying people regardless. Because we're government workers and we expect people to be in the parks, we do expect most of Tom's people to keep working. So that'll take the pressure off, particularly some of the sick leave balances, but we don't know what's going to happen and how long all of this is going to last. It's just going to be uncomfortable for some people. The longer it goes, the more people this is going to be super miserable for. So, did I miss anything? The federal rules are changing constantly. I think the third version of stimulus is still under discussion, and that's the one they're talking about sending checks to people. The one that was, I think, voted on yesterday will be effective in 15 days, and that's the one that provides some paid leave if you need to be home because your kids are out of school, and then paid leave if you're affected by the virus itself. And some of those, although the law as it's currently written does not provide a mechanism for agencies who do not pay Social Security to get reimbursed. The expectation is that we will be able to get reimbursed for the monies that we pay out associated with the action of yesterday.
And if maybe a positive note, we're looking into, since there's nobody out there like with a AYSO or girls softball or other soccer organizations, or we're looking at maybe doing some field refurbishments early this year and doing them now, because we think one of the worst things that can happen is, hopefully this gets over in the June or July time frame, and then we say, welcome back, your field's closed, time for refurbishment. So we're working with the recreation folks and looking at each individual field and see what are the pros and cons of closing them now and having them open later on in the year.
And if I may, I do want to express my sincere appreciation to each and every person among all of the CRPD staff, especially the administrators here leading things. Shelley, I sat through that Liebert Cassidy 2-hour webinar on the new law that just passed and the different leave balances available, and my head hurt. I was eligible for MCLE credit for taking that class, and I don't think I understood it enough to accept the credit, so I'm going to thank Shelley for trying to make sense of it all. Mark, for being asked to put together what we're doing tonight, which is our first really high-tech, Zoom board meeting. Pretty cool. And then I walked in to keep our social separation going. I walked in to talk to Rochelle, who was, basically with just a few other staff people in a very big conference room looking at a TV with about 15 people on a big Zoom meeting just like this, where the whole staff at all the remote sites were getting together and meeting. This is a pretty dramatic situation, unlike anything I certainly have ever been a part of or witnessed. I think we have to take this very seriously. We will continue to try to do what the public health agency officials are recommending. My phone just lit up in LA. The governor apparently issued a new stay-at-home order that I obviously can't read other than a couple lines on a text. So I believe the restrictions continue to tighten. The good news, looking at, say, curves of other places that it's been hard hit, I think, the Wuhan, where it started, they're reporting no new case as of yesterday or today, which could indicate if things go really well, this might be a 3-month thing. So I don't know that. I'm guessing based on the experience in other places, but to pretend it's a 2-week thing or a 4-week thing, I think is not realistic. So as we keep our separation, continue to operate as time goes on, we're going to have to focus on the services we're providing to the public, those essential services, what we can deliver, and the things that we cannot do that we aren't doing. How do we take care of our fellow employees? These leave balances will certainly help, and try to get through this to the other side. And I know a lot of other small businesses are trying to do the same thing, large businesses, folks at every level. But I'm going to leave you with the first and foremost, most important thing we've been telling all of our staff, that I will tell all of you too, is to take care of your own health, follow those orders, follow all those hygiene practices, wash your hands constantly, and if you don't feel well, stay home. I mean, that is really what they're saying. So, we're all living through something really new and pretty wild. So with that, we are available for questions.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager, and challenging times for sure. Director Cusworth.
I just have a question. Are we investigating at all at helping some of our employees apply for state or federal funding if they're not getting as many hours? Is that something that we've, or that you've thought of, or giving them the information?
We're directing them to the EDD.
Okay.
That part of the EDD's got everybody on the planet directed towards them.
Okay.
So we don't expect the time they turn around, but we've gotten, 2 or 3 already claims?
Okay. Also, I wanted to say, I felt so proud of CRPD when I read in the Acorn that public or portable toilets have been put into our parks. It was generous and compassionate, considering that our restrooms were vandalized. And I think it showed a lot of compassion to our patrons. So thank you for that, because I'm sure that will be quite an added expense over the next several months. But I know that a lot of parents with young children are going to want to be utilizing the parks. And I was also worried about homeless people. And so thank you for that generosity and for all the work that you're all doing. It's very notable.
Thank you, Director Cusworth. Director Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I presume, as well as everybody, I have lots of questions, but I'm not going to ask them because I know none of us have the answers to them. It changes, even though you think you might have an answer, you hear, just as our general manager was saying, he gets another bit of information and the rules change again. So I just wanted to express my thanks for trying to keep this organization moving, to pull in where necessary, to provide services where we can. It's great to be flexible, but at some point things get really, really tight, and I think we're there, and it's going to keep getting a little bit tighter. So thank you for doing that. It's a very somber time. I know everyone is trying to put on their happy face, but it's tough when the uncertainty is surrounding us, whether it be our own families or our own person or those that we know and care about. But I want to thank you for that. I have no opposition to what we're trying to do as far as this resolution. I know we are in partnership with the city, and we work hand in hand with them, and we'll continue to do that. One thing I would like to request of the general manager, this is a good evening as far as trying to get things done under a less than desirable situation. I would like to know if this is possible to repeat in the future, or if there's going to be some modifications from what we learned tonight. Mr. Segedy, I know, is probably learning quite a bit as he goes through this process. Because while we may think this is 2 weeks, it could be 4 weeks or 8 weeks or more. And I know, as we all are clamoring for information and watching the news and our cell phones and everything else, people will still want to know what is the park district doing. And so it'd be nice to have them be able to review this. If we do need to close the doors so that the public can't come into this room during a public meeting, It'd be nice to have it available to them and broadcasted through whatever email list or distributions we have to invite people to participate. Just say, hey, this is a trial run to get through this time, but to keep people informed. Hopefully it'll relieve the staff of having to answer lots of questions multiple times when they can see for their self firsthand, and maybe we can learn more from this process of how to get information out. But I do want to thank you for pulling this together, and as we move forward, one day at a time, we'll learn, and we'll flex with what's thrown at us. And I thank you, Mr. Friedel, for leading the charge on this. But I know with the executive team and the challenges that you all face, and the things that we don't know about that you will face, thank you for putting forth that extra effort.
Thank you, Director Nichols. Director Huffer.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I want to add my thanks to the general manager, the administrators, and all the staff at the Park District for being so responsive and so flexible in working with things. I know I talked with Jim about this earlier in the week, that whatever can be done to make sure that all of our employees are not only safe, but that medically and physically safe, but also economically safe. Whatever can be done to make sure, because as Jim pointed out to me, number-wise, the bulk of our staff are part-timers, and I know that you can't just make work, but if there's whatever can be done to make sure that our full-time folks and our part-time folks are taken care of, if at all possible. I did have a question a day or two ago. Jim, you sent out an article, which I saw in the Times this morning, about the city of Los Angeles converting, I think it was 40-some rec centers into shelters. And I'm just wondering if there has been even the slightest whisper in our community about something like that being done here.
I've heard no suggestion of that. I know that the winter warming shelters through the churches that have been going on have disbanded. Right. But that has been just a few weeks earlier than when they would normally break up. I think it's the end of March anyway, when they stopped the winter warming shelter program. So I don't know exactly what will change for our local homeless population. I do know there's a lot of, the faith community is doing a tremendous amount to help them out, and I think that's continuing. So we are in regular communication with the city on that topic, and I'll let you know if I do hear anything.
Okay. And then I have a question for Rochelle. I should know at least the first part of this, an answer to the first part of the question, but what's the procedure for groups that are reserving, whether it's picnic areas or fields or whatever it is? Do they pay their fees in advance? And if they have paid those fees in advance, what's the refund policy?
So currently, right now, anyone that had a reservation from now until May 3rd will be refunded their payments that they paid. And I believe for reservations, we're currently at about $23,000 in refunds paid in rentals already. And then we have additional loss of about $15,000 for people that were scheduled to rent, never didn't pay us anything yet, but that we've had to cancel. So we are not allowing anybody to make a reservation up till May 3rd, but because we do take reservations 6 days out, we are accepting if people want to do them. We'll put them on the books at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Huffer and staff. Mr. Friedel, are there any other park districts that you're aware of that have the same type of resolution and or relationship with their city and form the same kind of collaborative effort?
Well, you know, I don't know throughout the state, the big, say, 60 or 70 park districts, some have better relations than the others, but here locally, who I frequently speak with, are Rancho Simi and Pleasant Valley, and they do have good relations with their cities, both of them do, and are communicating with their cities. I don't know if they're doing the emergency declaration exercise like we are, but we're communicating with each other about, you know, what are you doing? And we have excellent listservs from the National Rec and Park Association and CPRS, and there is a fire hose of information and idea exchanging. We're just trying to sort them out, because as soon as we start to land on a solution or an idea, then a new public health order comes out, and we have to kind of restart the thinking process. So I think as it gets tighter and tighter, and I can't imagine it's going to get much more tighter than it is now, we'll have sort of figure out where the bottom is, and then start to plan for going forward.
Okay, thank you. And I too want to thank our staff, our administrators, especially the extra work that you're putting into this, trying to protect the hours, et cetera, of our staff. It's and I too, Director Huffer, had a brief conversation with our general manager this week on possibilities, methods of how to support our staff when they get to the point of certain needs. And Jim, is there anything now that we should discuss, or should we wait for future?
Yeah, I think that's better, you know, for a future discussion. I can say that I don't know if it will be okay to do it after the governor's latest orders or declarations, but we have, to enable some of our staff to work, we've had a CRPD employee childcare system set up so that staff that would otherwise not, or have a really difficult time working with childcare issues because kids in school, we've been able to keep them working with an internal childcare, and as long as, you know, we're able to do that, we'll continue to try to do that. In terms of helping out the broader community, there are discussions underway about the potential for, should a surge situation occur with the hospitals and first responders, whether we might look at setting up childcare for those folks, and can we mobilize and do it within the separation guidelines? I mean, a lot of this stuff is, the rules are starting to get a little more detailed and a little more restrictive at the same time. So if we can do such things, we're thinking about doing it. And we have been contacted by the Red Cross about the possibility of using a center for a blood drive, because the blood donations have plummeted, and there's a critically low supply of blood out there in the community for, you know, any other normal medical reasons people need blood. So we're talking about that too. So our centers they're not generally open to the public, but they're not completely idle either.
Very good.
Director Lang, could I just make a comment? I know Jim just mentioned that something new came down from the state, and I just pulled it up, and it's basically a mandatory stay-at-home order for everybody in the entire state.
Better get home. Yeah, no, this is serious. This is unprecedented.
No
so
grocery store?
There'll be exceptions. It'll be very detailed. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the update, Director Huffer. All right, any more comments or questions on this particular emergency item? If not, I'd entertain a motion on this resolution. Yes, Director Nichols.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt the attached resolution 03190-B, declaring and joining with the City of Thousand Oaks proclamation and order of the Director of Emergency Services for the City of Thousand Oaks proclaiming existence of a local emergency, and for that resolution to be read in title only.
Thank you, Director Nichols. Boy, those rookies are jumped right in there. A second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Huffer. Any comments or questions? If not, roll call vote, please.
No, we
Read it in
Need that
title.
reading.
Read it in title, please.
Resolution number 031920B, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Conejo Recreation and Park District declaring and joining the County of Ventura and City of Fresno declaration and proclamation of the existence of a local emergency and rendering certain emergency orders.
Thank you, Ms. Secretary. With that, roll call vote, please.
Director Lang,
Yes?
Director Nichols,
Yes.
Director Holt, Director Huffer,
Yes.
Director Cosworth.
Yes.
Thank you. That passes. We're now going on to item 10, reports and announcements, 10A through 10E. Are there any specific items that you'd like to be pulled for discussion? If not, let's move on to item 11, department reports. Mr. Hare, Parks and Division, please.
I have no report, but I'm available for questions.
Hey, I've heard that before from the other end of the table there. Okay, any questions of our Administrator of Parks and Planning? Let's move on to item 11B, Recreation Division report. Ms. Callis.
Thank you, Chair Lane, members of the board. I was going to tell you about all sorts of things that we were going to be trying to do and be creative that our staff were planning, but as of right now, I think I have a lot of really worried staff out there, and I have to, again, figure things out. So times are changing. I have no report.
Okay, any questions of Ms. Callis? Okay, thank you, Rochelle. Moving on to item 11C, Management Services Division report. Ms. LaWanda, for your very last report, and we're going to miss you so very much.
Oh, thank you, George. Are you going to ride your bike still, George? If you're allowed to go outside again?
That's my goal in about 2 or 3 months. My physical therapist says it's definitely possible, and I've already been on a stationary bike.
That's great, because I want to learn how to ride again.
Okay.
And so I'm going to work with you to learn how to ride a bicycle. Chuck, I'm
It'll
going
be
to
my-
see you doing taxes, if we're going to do taxes again ever, at the senior CSVP. Nellie's already tapped me on the shoulder and said, we're both women on the loose, let's go hiking. The governor just screwed that up. I happen to run into Susan at our eye doctor periodically. Hopefully I can find some more creative way to run into her. And Doug, I think I'm probably going to see you at miscellaneous programs and on the trail.
I hope so.
And I was going to write something that with everything going on, I will email my more heartfelt thoughts. With that, I have no more comments.
Okay, and no, Miss LaWanda and everybody that there
Wait a minute,
will
I do
will
have
be
a
a
minor presentation, if I can do it really quickly. This is the passing of the guard, and we're doing it completely safely. Oh my gosh.
Is that a 6-foot pole?
Open it, put it on. It was officially sanitized with a Clorox wipe.
She did sneeze, no.
I wiped it after I used all of it.
Yeah, so for those people that are watching and all confused, our dearly beloved Management and Services Administrator just had her last meeting, and she is handing over the green eye shade to Leslie Smith.
It's like a photo op to me.
Oh, yeah, who's got the photo? 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
With the poll of you guys.
Okay, is there any more before I mention, Miss Luanda, that, you know, unfortunately, due to all this tragic situation with the coronavirus and so forth, the proper send-off has not been able to occur. So I'll know that that and some other things are in your future. So even though you won't be on our premises and in your office any longer, we'll still have the connection, and there's more to come. So, and with that, also welcome Melissa to the CRPD team. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Thank you, and I adore Cheryl, so she's not going anywhere. Not going far. Not going far.
You gotta get a direct, Mark, be ready to have a direct phone line video between Melissa and Cheryl.
That's something.
Okay, anything else, staff, for the good of the organization?
Still waiting for
Okay.
general manager.
Yeah, general manager's report.
Really, I have nothing to add beyond what we have talked about with respect to, you know, the coronavirus and the just uncharted territory that we've been navigating over the past week. Any sense of confusion, concern, lack of clarity to our employees in the Park District because of so much changing is really on me. So to the extent anyone's frustrated by not feeling like they've had the right info, put that on me and not any of the other staff. But we are trying to get out the correct information, and as of you know, tomorrow, we expect we'll be able to get some clear guidance on where we're headed. It just has been so dramatic and dynamic, and you know, our utmost intent is to try to keep people active and engaged for as long as possible, but at some point, the state's limitations on our movement will just really prevent us from doing a lot. The good news is I think the federal government's packages may be really helpful to help get us through, you know, some of this time. Again, I want to thank the staff for all that they have been doing, the community for being responsive and responsible. We've actually seen a lot of good behavior out there with respect to the parks and social distancing, and I don't know, as the law is changing right here while we sit, if going outside will still be something people are okay with to get fresh air when there's cabin fever. Our open space and parks are going to continue to be maintained. Hopefully people will be allowed to, you know, be apart from others and into the open space. Welcome, Melissa, and I want to close my comments. They won't be as dramatic as I had hoped either, and I think what I want to do is commit to having Cheryl come back to a board meeting to have a real proper send-off when we can actually give her a great big hug and all that kind of stuff. So I do want to say Cheryl Luanda has been an incredible management services administrator for these past 16 years. She has guided us through, she started before the Great Recession hit, so we saw the run-up in the final days of the good old days, and then right through the Great Recession and the pulling out and rebuilding, and a lot of hard decisions over the years. She's been a leader throughout that whole time, always trying to figure out how to help Tom, Karen Lindsay, or even Lizzie or Rochelle try to get their work done. She's just been, oh no, she's crying. She's crying, for the record. Cheryl is crying.
Lots of flowers.
No, this is, it doesn't feel fair to have your big retirement party that we had planned canceled because the event venue got canceled because we can't be together. And then our focus this last week has not been on her whatsoever, and been on everything but. And so she kind of got short shrift, but in comparison to everything else going on, that's not the worst of it. So when I commit, Cheryl, and all the other staff, we will have you back here at a board meeting to get a proper send-off. And thank you to the board as well for your guidance and leadership over this crazy week and a half. So thank you. That's it. I'm available for questions.
Any questions of our general manager? I see no hands being raised. Let's go on to item E, director's reports and follow-up reports on meetings and conferences attended. Board members, please. Director Cussworth.
So a while ago, since I wasn't here at the last meeting, I did want to report it was, fairly significant. The Stagecoach Inn and the Chumash Museum made an agreement to transfer the artifacts from Stagecoach to Chumash, which has been an irritation between the both of them for a long time. So I don't know if I reported on that. Finally, the Board of Trustees did approve that. And many of the events that I was planning on attending have all been canceled, but today I did watch a webinar on the Brown Act, and I can say that we, as I had told Jim, it was about as interesting as a webinar on the Brown Act can be in parts of emergencies. But I'm happy to report that we have maintained all of the recommendations that were on that webinar. And a special thanks to Mark for that and putting this together. And also even down to the roll call. I thought I was going to have to mention that, but you all knew we had to do that roll call. So kudos to that. And Cheryl, I'm going to really miss you. I mean, I haven't known you for long like everybody else has, but your expertise, your experience has made me feel confident on everything that's come through financially through this board, and the auditors that have come through when we've had presentations on the retirement funds and everything. You always were right on top of it. And since first grade math is about as high as I go, it was always a comfort to me that we had somebody with such great expertise here at our helm, because it's obviously very important for a government agency to be transparent and to be in the red. And I've been able to say in confidence to many people that have asked me about CRPD expenditures, I mean in the black, to say CRPD pays its way. And that I have been with auditors who have said that we are the, best run financial institution that they have ever worked with. And that's all pretty much been, on your shoulders. I'm, with help, but you've been the one in charge. So thank you for that. And welcome to Melissa. Everything is well organized. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that you'll be able to slide right in. So I guess that ends my report.
Thank you, Director Cussworth. Director Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of activities that I participated in was the Chamber of Commerce Gala. Seems like forever ago now. Also met with the General Manager as part of the ad hoc Rancho Potrero Committee for that discussion. And then yesterday I stopped by to help out with the Senior Nutrition Lunch, which was interesting to see how that whole thing worked. And my wife helped it today, and she's coming back tomorrow. She liked it so much. But I'm just, thrilled that the Recreation District is providing services like this to our community. And I know we'll probably be finding other opportunities as the days and weeks unfold for just how flexible we can be to do that. I too wanted to thank Cheryl for all of her contributions to making this organization what it is. And as I've been admiring all these photos on the big screen that go by, obviously you do all this remotely because you're always somewhere else other than this office. So I guess working remotely must be a real talent of yours. But I'm just glad to see that while you keep things under control for us, you're still a large part of why this organization is so fun. And so I appreciate that. And so we have to hold on to that fun. So we'll let the work part go, but the fun part's got to stay. So
no problem there.
Yes, we'll be bringing you back for that. Melissa, we look forward to working with you. And thank you for religiously being here, even pre-employment, to get up to speed. And it's nice to know that Cheryl is available as well, but I know you've got a great team around here. So thank you both, and Cheryl will miss you, but we know you're close by, so thank you.
Thank you, Director Nichols. Director Huffer.
Cheryl, I'd just like to add my thanks. In the almost 8 years that I've been on the board, the district has continued to be financially strong, and some of the changes that you've spearheaded in terms of funding for our various special needs has made such I think, a huge difference in where we're going to be financially in the next 10, 20, 30 years. So thank you for that and for everything you've done in making sure that our district is properly managed. Yes, I'm gonna miss you. I know that you got us just barely started on the revenue measures process. You're certainly welcome to come back and sit in on any of those meetings, I'm sure, but as far as I haven't been to any meetings, I haven't really been to anything. We managed to get the first weekend of our 3 weekends of the AYSO soccer tournament in, and the rest of that's canceled. We worked at the VITA tax program up until last Friday, and that's now closed. So it's been really quiet. So anyway, that's all I've got.
Thank you, Director Huffer. Yes,
Sure,
Director Custer.
Can I make one last comment? Since I'm sort of not going to work every day, it's kind of a new experience for me because I'm used to getting up early and going to work. I have been hiking, and there are a lot of people on our trails, fortunately. And Cheryl, we can keep a 6-foot distance. So whenever you're ready, I'm ready to go out there. And gratefully to the people of Thousand Oaks that we do have a lot of parks and outdoor space where they can safely go. I mean, it's really a blessing to live here. Not everybody has that advantage. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Director Cusworth. Well, Cheryl, you know how much I'll miss you. One of the things that I'm amazed that you handle so well, it doesn't happen that frequently, maybe twice or 3 times during your career with the Park District, is changing auditors. That's a operation time of the year when you and staff have to do so much. But when we change auditors, how you make that transition so smoothly, and the new ones, when they come on board, are raring to go. So good job there. And Melissa, you might have to take notes or call Cheryl if that happens again in the near future. But so many times, Cheryl, when you're giving some of your explanations, I'm hearing it and I'm trying to follow it. And then I look at the notes and I says, I don't really understand that, but you're amazing, and your ability to, as mentioned by other board members, your ability to do so much financially for our district. And Director Nichols hit it on the head when he said that it's those types of decisions and guidance and support that you've given us that'll keep the Park District in operation long after we're gone. So Cheryl, thank you so much. And as I was trying to communicate, just know that there's other activities in the future, as the general manager mentioned, for a proper goodbye in the future. So I like Director Nichols and I were at the Chamber Gala, and then I'm also on the
Did he touch something?
George, can you hear us?
George? Hey, George? George? George?
Hello?
Oh, God! Susan! George?
You're kidding. Oh, this is ridiculous. You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Oh, God, what I went through. It just shut off. And I'm like, geez
Oh, it's
Louise. Believe me, I said yes to every, resolution. But nobody heard me. And you can't see me either, which is fine.
Chuck, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
George?
Yeah, something happened, so I spent all this time going back. But it was, late in the meeting, so I wasn't too worried. The meeting must be over, right?
Yeah.
It's getting close. We just lost connection with George, so we're trying to go through some technical difficulties.
And of course, every time there was a vote, they'd call my name and I go, yes. And I even asked George a couple times, did you hear me? And he said yes, but he didn't. So I don't know what's going on, but anyway, I'm trying.
Good, we're glad to hear it.
It is trying. And I'm trying. So the meeting is just about over, right, at this point?
George, can you hear me?
We're just about ready to wrap up.
Hey, Siri, call
Okay.
George Lang.
Well, I'll hang on.
George will hang up. Okay, bye.
It's like maybe George is going to try to dial in, see if he can get audio or something.
Well, there is a way, because I finally did it.
So Susan is now on the line, but you can't hear us. You can't hear the audio. Okay. Okay. So George can't hear anything, including Director Huffer. So George hears nothing. So we're really close to the end of the meeting. I don't know if you want, I could put you on speaker, although we'll get feedback. We'll see how that goes. But let me try this, and we could get some ugly feedback, and if it doesn't work. But I think we're getting close to wrapping, so I'm going to put you on speaker and see how this works. Okay.
And I was there from the beginning of the meeting, so I've heard it all. But I lost mine too, George.
Director Huffer?
Yes.
Oh, Director Huffer's on the line now.
Yes.
How
I'm going to hear just fine.
George, and we didn't.
I think we talked about Kim.
Yep.
Director Huffer, you with us?
Yeah, I'm barely hearing you, George.
Maybe I'll turn off the poll. Okay, let's conclude the meeting. We're almost at the end.
All right, bye.
I have item 12, request for status reports, and item subsequent agendas. Do you have any?
No.
If not, item 13, items from the public. Any public want to turn in? We have no need for executive closed session, correct?
Cheryl Manor?
That's correct.
Okay. So let's go to item 15, adjourn this unique meeting, teleconference, and all the things that have been thrown at us this last few weeks with the coronavirus. We're going to conclude this meeting and conclude this time together. And God bless you, Cheryl. Love you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Okay.
Be safe,
Ciao.
everyone.
Be safe.
Okay, bye.